Hey guys, it's Thomas of Southern Outdoors Fishing. Hope y'all doing all right today. On behalf of Kayak, I want to do a how-to video for you guys. Hope the wind won't hurt us too much as far as picking up the sound on what I'm going to try to show you today. I do a lot of Carolina rig fishing in the summertime. Whenever I go to lakes, when I'm at the coast, I do a lot of Carolina rig fishing. Now, down at the coast, I do it a little different, of course. But here in freshwater, that's one of my go-to ways of catching fish. Especially in deeper water, around points, around grass, things like that, grass beds. I really enjoy fishing with a Carolina rig. So what I'm going to show you today, this is just example purposes. I've got my Z-bait. This is the ribtail worm, 7.4 inches long. This is the pumpkin with watermelon flake in it. So I'm going to take one of these. I've got my Casking White Max. This is the brand new one they just come out with. Guys, if you hadn't checked out this reel, you really need to. This is an awesome reel. It's 5:3 to 1 gear ratio. It's a low gear ratio, so you can fish crankbaits and Carolina rig, Texas rig, anything slow, swim jigs, anything like that you want to work slow. So I'm going to show you exactly how I got this thing set up from one end of the line to the other. I've got 20-pound Casking braid on this line. And I've got a brass weight on here. You don't have to use brass, it's just something I had handy. But this is a 3/16 ounce. Now I'm down my pond. Now anytime I'm anywhere else, I usually don't fish Carolina rig down the pond. Like I said, this is just for example purposes. But anyway, I've got a 3/16 bullet weight. You can see that there. And like I said, this is brass. You don't have to use brass. That's just what I had, and I picked up out of the box. I usually use lead, but in a lake, I usually use a 1/2 ounce or larger. I usually don't go less than a 1/2 ounce. Sometimes I will, but normally I go 1/2 ounce. Now I've got just a little clear bead. You can pick these up anywhere. You don't have to be in the fishing department. It can be anywhere really. Fabric place, the fabric department, anywhere like that sells little beads, you can just pick these up for little or nothing. And then I got a swivel, and I tie a uni knot on each side. So I've got a uni knot here, my braid tied to my swivel, and then I've got, it's about a 18 to 24 inch leader here, and it's tied to a uni knot on this side of the swivel, and it comes down to a 4/0 eagle claw worm hook is what I've got here. So it's just a worm hook is all it is. And the way I'm going to do this is going to thread straight, go straight in the top, go down about about a 1/4 inch, and go right out. So you're going to see me thread this through here, and it's going to look just like that. All right, now I'm going to lay the worm right up against the hook just like that. So that way I know about where I need to stick the hook into the worm to keep it all nice and straight, because you want to keep that worm as straight as you can. So I got it marked there, so I just stick it through the middle, come right out. It's nice and straight. And now I can run just the tip of that hook, it's called skin hooking, run it right back into that worm just a little bit, just so that whenever a bass picks that worm up, it won't feel that hook right away. Or you run it across brush or rocks or what have you, it's not going to be hanging up on you all the time. So there's that. Alright guys, so we're going to cast this thing out here. Now sometimes, depending on the situation, this is a mono leader, and sometimes I use fluoro. I also use, sometimes I'll adjust my length of my leader Sometimes I'll use a short leader, like 12 inches long. Sometimes I'll use up to about 3 foot long. It depends on like your vegetation. Say you're throwing out into some vegetation. I mean, not thick vegetation, but some vegetation, and you want this bait to come up above, kind of float with that vegetation, because this right here will not float exactly, but it using a mono leader and a halfway floating worm, it don't float all the way, but it does stand up like this. So I really like that about the Z-baits. And I can show you some underwater footage here in just a second on how this looks coming through the water. All right, let's cast this thing out here real quick and possibly catch a fish. What do you think? All right, guys. Now, one thing you gotta keep in mind is whenever you're casting is behind you, because you got about 3 or 4 foot there of bait behind you. You know, you can have 3 or 4 or 5 foot hanging back there. So I like using a little bit longer rod. I can get a little bit more casting distance. So this is a 7 foot rod, I think. Yeah, this is my 7 foot rod. And you can use some people use, you know, up to 8 foot rods for doing this, but I like to keep it around 7 foot, you know, around 7 to 7.5 foot rod. And this is a medium fast action rod, is what I like to use. So we're gonna give this thing a cast out here and maybe pick up a fish. Now, the way I'm gonna work this thing, there's one. Oh, one hit it. I missed it, but one hit it. It could have been a brim. Brim love these things. It could have been a bass from a few minutes ago. I seen swirl over there. All right, so you've seen kind of how that worked. All right, let's do this again. Maybe we might look up and catch that fish. So I'm gonna cast it out there. And I'm just gonna let it sit. I'm gonna let it sink to the bottom. Say we're fishing 15, 20 feet of water. And you just hit it again. There it goes. There it is. Oh, he come off. He come off. It's a little small one. It come off. But you seen how I done that. I cast it out there, just let it sit there. The fish picked it up. And you really didn't get to see me working any, so I want to show it to you as I'm working this bait. So I got it all set back up here for you. You can see it there. All right, let's cast this thing back out here again. All right, so we cast it back out there, and I'm letting it fall. I'm letting it I'm letting the bait and the weight and all that sink all the way to the bottom. And I'm going to raise my rod tip up real slow. And I'm going to let it back down. Now, you don't ever want to lay your rod all the way down. You never want that, because if that fish hits it and starts running with it, you have no way to set the hook. Because you want to be able to set the hook if one does happen to pick it up and start running with it. You want some power to go ahead and yank it back. So you want to reel it down to about right there. And what I do is I'll raise it up and I'll give it some little bumps. I'll bump it just like this right here, just a little bit. Get down here a little bit closer, maybe you guys can see. And right now it's going over some brush, so I'm just working it over that brush, letting it fall back down, settle back down. Letting it fall. All right. I'm gonna tell you what, guys, this White Max, man, I absolutely fell in love with this reel. It is just awesome. It's so smooth. It casts a mile. It's perfect for doing this type of fishing right here. It fits in your hand just perfect for me. But I just cast it out there, let it fall. To get to the top, I reel down my slack just a little bit. I want to keep a little bit of slack in that line as it's going out there to the water. Because you don't want a tight line, because if you do, that fish is going to feel you and it's going to let go and it's going to take off. It's not going to pick that bait up. It's going to drop it back out of his mouth and it's going to go feed on something else. Now, one thing that weight's going to do in front is it's going to have a little bit of a mud trail, and it's going to be clacking up against that bead just a little bit. So that's going to give you a little bit of sound there that's going to help attract those fish. And you don't have to bump it once you get to the top. That's just something I like to do. And I don't always do that, but you do want to make sure this thing's dragging along the bottom. You always want to have enough weight so that thing's always dragging along the bottom. Just so you guys know that. Alright, so I cast it out there and we're letting it fall. I'm going to start working it back to me. Now, a lot of times when I'm fishing out the lake, most time when I'm fishing out the lake, I'll use a lizard of some kind. Z-Bait just come out with one. Well, it's not a lizard. It looks kind of like a lizard, but it's not a lizard. It's really, really nice. Sometimes I'll just let this thing sit here. And the way you know if you got a hit is you'll feel it. You'll feel it as a tap, tap, tap. Most time you feel a tap. Sometimes you won't feel anything. And most time you'll feel a tap. And what you want to do is you want to drop that rod, watch your line. If you start seeing it move off to the side or take off, set the hook. Break his jaw. You want that hook to expose itself out of that worm and go into that fish's jaw is what you're wanting to do. There's one. Oh, dang. He felt me, I think. I was on my way up and he hit it. He felt me. But you know, that's just trial and error. I mean, you gotta be paying attention. You gotta feel, you know, just feel learn to feel that fish whenever he hits. And don't yank it out of its mouth whenever it grabs it right away. Just let it have it for a second, then set the hook. Alright guys, I have switched up and I'm going to use one of these Rage Tail Strike King lizards. So we're going to get this thing rigged up here and see how it works. I've usually had better luck with a lizard over a worm fishing a Carolina rig for whatever reason. Maybe it's just because I'm more confident with it. I don't know. Probably going to pick up quite a bit of moss and mess here because there's quite a bit of moss on the bottom. Ooh. There's one. Ooh. There's one. That's a pretty decent one. Small. Not too bad. Now I'm going to show you the hook set on this thing real quick. This is this is the kind of hook set you want. Come on. Right there, right in the top of that mouth. That's the hook set that you want whenever you're fishing Carolina rig. There we go. All right, there you go, just a little small one. A little small one here. Start today. It's not bad. Don't want to step in this fire ant nest down here at my feet. All right, so you seen what I did. Hopefully, the bass come up, it bit it. I lowered my rod, and then I broke his jaw. I just made sure that the line was moving. Once I seen it was moving, or I felt tightness, I set the hook. See if we can get another one. I hadn't used any lizards down in here at the pond any, so something a little different for them. You'll never see me lower my rod all the way down unless I'm getting ready to set the hook. Alright guys, so I hope you liked this video. Hope you got something out of it. On behalf of Cast King, I do appreciate you watching. And leave me a comment below, let me know what you thought about the video. If this is something that, a style that you would like to do, you can fish this way in a pond, but I normally don't. Usually if I'm going to fish with a weight, it's going to be with a fishing Texas rig instead of Carolina rig. But you can see that it is productive either way you want to fish it. So main thing is fish it slow, and you really can't do this type of fishing when you got a lot of moss and grass on the bottom. You're just going to be bringing up moss and grass, so it's just one other thing to keep in mind. Change out your baits, find what works on the day that you're using this, because I guarantee you will find something that's going to work on the Carolina rig, that bass is going to start picking up on, whether it's a worm, a lizard, or crawfish, something like that. You can use any type of bait that you want like that. Guys, subscribe to the channel. I sure would appreciate it. See you next video. Take care, guys.